Is one potential breakout receiver in the NFC West going undervalued in FFPC drafts? What early round NFC North running back is one to avoid this season? And who will be the talk of the 2022 Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship drafts this weekend? Plus, former KFFSC football guys and FFPC multi-league champion Jay Reed and KFFSC lead crusher Stacy Perez will join me as we broadcast live from Caesars, Southern Indiana at the 2022 Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship live event. We've got a great show for you. I'm Eric Balkman. Stick around. Your high-stakes fantasy football hour starts now.
Stay under pressure. I've seen greater men than me.
Broadcast live and heard around the world, you are now watching the most entertaining hour of radio on the planet. Welcome to the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com with your hosts Eric Balkman and Farrell Elliott. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour is your home for analysis from the best players in the world. And now, because no one else was available, here are Eric Balkman and Farrell Elliott.
Solace in the scripture. Are we not all our father's sons? I became a man. Nobody ever told me what a man was.
Thank you so much, Rob. Greetings and salutations to all you Balkaholics and Farrelliacs. Welcome to the latest episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour, brought to you by MyFFPC.com. I am, of course, your slightly above average host, Eric Balkman. We are broadcasting live from Caesars, Southern Indiana, here at the 2022 Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship live events. We got a lot of stuff to get into. This is the last episode we have until the start of the NFL season. So make sure that you're soaking up everything we can, both for me, well, not so much me, but our guests tonight who really have it all together. Before we get into that, I do want to remind you everything that's going on with the FFPC right now. Main event drafts filling up every day. The 2-hour slow drafts will come to an end soon. 6-hour drafts, slow drafts are already done, but live events are going off each and every day. Until the start of the NFL season. I think we got a 10 o'clock tonight. We got an 11:30 tonight. Definitely hop into those. Multiple football guys drafts, well over a dozen of those going on every single day right now going forward as well. So if you want to take your shot at $1 million in the main event or $500,000 grand prize in the Football Guys Players Championship, now is the time to do it. The 2022 FFPC Best Ball Tournament is almost 70% full. And it's a $200,000 grand prize this year, ladies and gentlemen. Only $125 to enter. And, of course, the Superflex Best Ball 2 tournament, $10,000 will go to the winner. Just $35 to enter that. That is going to fill up shortly as well. Dynasty Startups. Today is the last day for slow drafts. We might have a couple of slow drafts going on tomorrow, but it's pretty much live clocks after this, 60-second clocks on those. So if you still want to formulate a dynasty squad or two, make sure you're doing that at myffpc.com. Get a ton of options available for you there as well. And if you want to play in a slow live league, classic, best ball, Terminator, varsity, whatever you'd like, closed 12-team league, we have those at myffpc.com, and there's still time to enter the Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship at KFFSC.com right now as well. You can sign up for any of the online main events that are going off each and every day until the start of the season. And as far as the FFPC YouTube channel goes, make sure you're liking, commenting, subscribing, and getting that notification bell. The more traffic that this channel gets, the better and more content we can put out, thanks to myself, Farrell Elliott, Dave Terpoli, and all the other contributors to this FFPC YouTube channel. No Farrell Elliott tonight, as he is hard at work running the Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship live events. We're just in the shadows of Louisville, Kentucky here at Caesars, Southern Indiana. We'll be here all weekend doing auctions, doing drafts. I just completed a draft right now. Actually, I ran out of time, and I left it in the capable hands of Chad Schroeder, who's picking my last 2 picks for me, just a kicker and defense. And then we'll do an auction coming up later tonight as well. A guy who also has not drafted so far this weekend, and we want to bring him in right now. We missed him last year, but I want to bring him in, ladies and gentlemen. He's had a lot of success over the years. He claimed double-digit titles in the FFPC main event, the Football Guys Players Championship, the Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship, and satellite leagues in the FFPC and KFFSC as well. We wanted to have him on last year. We're having him on this year. You know him as the co-host of the Chasing the Helmet podcast. You follow him on Twitter at Packers153. Welcome back onto the show, Jay Reed. Jay, so last year it was a little bit difficult. We couldn't get you on, but how are you liking Kentucky so far this year?
It's great, Balky. I'm here. It's good to be alive and well and join you guys. I was supposed to be on this year. exactly a year ago today.
Yep.
But hospitalized here in Kentucky. Had to go into it, but alive and well and good. Good to see you. But I see you lost the beard there.
All gone. All gone.
You look years younger.
Yeah, we did
recognize the host here.
Yeah, we did a live main event podcast with myself and Dave Terpoli on Wednesday night, and that was the first time I debuted the clean-shaven, non-caveman bulk man, and it's been good so far. So excellent. So Jay, tell the listeners what are you doing for Kentucky this week? You doing some big paybacks, some main events? What's the schedule like for you?
Yeah, it's today. I flew in today. One day early. I always do that. You never know with the flights today, but we have 4. My teammates, Sky Connor and I, will be doing 4 big paybacks tomorrow. We have 2 main events. Actually, I'll be teaming with Danny Mueller. Main event here as well, and also a big payback. So looking forward to that. I missed a lot of that last year, so looking to make a comeback this year.
Let's get into it, Jay, tonight. First question for you, and we'll pop off. I kind of crafted these questions based on some of the guys that you have grabbed so far on your teams this year. And I'll lead it off with the Bills slot receiver. This was something that we were trying to figure out basically since the NFL draft. Jamison Crowder gets signed. Khalil Shakir gets drafted. Isaiah McKenzie is the holdover. Who do you think wins that slot job for the Bills this year?
Yeah, it's got to be Isaiah McKenzie. Like you said, you looked at some of the teams I've already drafted this year. I would venture to say I have McKenzie on 90% of my teams. Was going in 12th, 13th round. He's moved up to the 11th round. I believe he's going to take that job. He's got a good rapport with Josh Allen. It's the Cole Beasley position. He could get over 100 targets easily. Mm-hmm. He also played out wide. So if there's an injury on the Bills or anything like that, they'll split him out wide. So I think he's going to be on the field the whole time. So I think he's going to garner a lot of targets this year. I think he's a great value at where he's going right now.
The last pick I made in that main event just now in the 18th round, I took Jamison Crowder, not because I think he's going to win the job, but because I value Isaiah McKenzie. And if he were to go down, maybe Crowder could take advantage of that. But it's simply, an injury away type guy with Crowder. And quite frankly, I don't know how successful he'd be if he ends up getting that job if McKenzie were to go down. But I'm with you, man. The Isaiah McKenzie hype train is real right now. We look at, and shout out to Darren Armani, Fantasy Mojo, at Fantasy Mojo on Twitter, fantasymojo.com. Right now, Isaiah McKenzie is wide receiver 61. He's moved up to the 12th round, and he is still ascending right now. So I think there's a lot to like about Isaiah McKenzie so far this year. A player that we found out from, I think it was a 49ers beat writer recently, or maybe it was a coach. I can't remember. It's all blurring together at this point, late August. But Brandon Naiuk was talked up as a potential breakout candidate this year in that 49ers offense. And Jay, as we look at the mojo on him, Brandon Naiuk, wide receiver 35, going in the mid-7th round right now. Is he being undervalued, in your opinion, by high-stakes drafters?
To me, I think he is. Yes, I've been grabbing him in the 5th round. I like him ahead of Jerry Jeudy and Darnell Mooney. That's my personal preference. But I've been taking him 5th, 6th round, looking for additional wide receivers in the draft. I think he's a great add, a great last wide receiver tier you can add before you get maybe into that middle round running backs. Maybe want to get some backups for your main running backs that you drafted earlier. So yes, definitely, I think he's undervalued. And if you've looked at my draft, you'll see where maybe you could call it a reach a little bit. But I just like him better than some of the other wide receivers in those 2 rounds, the 6th and 7th.
Does this mean, Jay, that you think Deebo Samuel in the 2nd round is being overvalued then?
I think so. I think I'd rather wait and get more value on IU. Is Deebo going to get those running back carries this year where he successfully, racked up a lot of fantasy points? I don't think he is. I think it's going to take a lot of injuries in the 49er backfield for Deebo to get that chance again. So I'd rather just a 2nd round Deebo is just too expensive for me. I'd just rather pick up pick up the value with Naiuk later.
You and I are lock and step on that with Deebo Samuel. I feel like people are paying for his ceiling right now. And I actually almost took Naiuk in the draft. I just did. I like him this year as well. When you consider the draft value between the two, to me, the easy choice between the Niners receivers is Naiuk. Speaking of which, I have seen in the Football Guys Players Championship over the last 2 to 3 weeks or so, Justin Jefferson going number 1 overall in a couple of drafts. Not a bunch, but a couple I've seen him go number 1 overall. Can we make the same argument here that Justin Jefferson maybe is, I don't want to say overvalued, but are people forgetting about Adam Thielen in this new Kevin McConnell offense? I mean, he could be a force this year, and people are letting him slide as I look up the mojo on him right now. Adam Thielen is currently I just had it here. Sorry, this is horrible radio. Wide receiver 33 at the 609. Is that too late for Thielen? Is this a guy we should be targeting?
I think the sharp drafters are looking for the next Cooper Kupp. And it can actually be Cooper Kupp. Okay.
Wait a minute. Hold on. How is Cooper Kupp the next Cooper Kupp?
Because they're looking for that wide receivers that's just going to just slam it, just get a bunch of fantasy points. So the consensus is it's Justin Jefferson. Okay, so that's why you see in drafts now Jefferson's being taken before Kupp. But I think Kupp could just regain his crown again. I mean, he's going right after Jefferson, but they're looking to actually pick that one player. So having said that, Thielen in the 7th round, I think that's where he's going.
Yeah.
Thielen, I've been grabbing him there as well. I think he's excellent value there. You can't pass that up.
Go ahead.
People are saying he's too old. Okay, they're saying he's touchdown dependent, but he's always staying healthy. He always delivers. I mean, he's always in that top, the top tier, not the middle tier, but closer to the topper tier of wide receivers by the end of the season.
Yeah, bottom of the top tier and top of the middle tier, essentially, with Thielen.
Pretty much right there.
At the risk of blowing a sleeper for me that I've liked this drafting season so far, also on Minnesota, what about KJ Osborne, Jay?
Love KJ Osborne.
You do? Okay.
I've been reaching for him, actually. I see here in a few drafts he went in the 15th round, then the 14th round. I've been grabbing him earlier than that. I think he's just those third wide receiver pieces on teams with good quarterbacks, good passing games. It's an injury away from Osborne breaking out. Something did happen to Thielen. Osborne's right there to pick up those targets. Excellent value. I think Osborne is really going too late in drafts. And he's like Joshua Palmer to, the Chargers, or what Osborne is, to the Vikings. I mean, you just target. You look for those pieces that can garner you fantasy points, possibly with an injury to the the 2 starters that are on the field.
Yeah, it's interesting because I just got out of a main event draft here in Kentucky, and I was going to take Joshua Palmer, but the tandem of Kurt Awe, former KFFSC overall main event champ, and two-packer Ron Meyer actually took Josh Palmer, so I pivoted and I took KJ Osborne. Then when it came back to Kurt and Ron, they tried to take KJ Osborne after they laughed at my KJ Osborne pick. They tried to take him the following round. Didn't really work out. I got him in the 12th. That might have been a little bit early, but in Kentucky, as you know, receivers fly up draft boards more so than they do in the FFPC and maybe some other tournaments.
Absolutely. That's why I've been reaching for in those around it too early.
And Matthew Bingham too. And I'll put the comment up just again in the YouTube chat right now. Set up beautifully as high volume wide receiver 3s. You don't often see that, and those are 2 guys that I think to target. And the 12th round, I think, is where Palmer's going, and football guys, Osborne a few rounds after that. They make perfect sense as guys that have value as a wide receiver 3, but have, the potential for even more if Allen, Williams, Thielen, or Jefferson were to go down, knock on wood. Hopefully that doesn't happen.
Add Isaiah Mckenzie to that group there, too.
Isaiah McKenzie's a perfect example. Yeah, that's another one for sure. Shifting to running backs here, Deandre Swift has seen a spike in his value. I would say it happened probably 4 or 5 weeks ago. We saw him ascend. I saw him go at the 103 or 104, maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago in a football guys draft. Are you buying him into returning either late first round or early second round value? How do you value Deandre Swift this year, Jay?
Yeah, I am. I mean, 103, 104 is a little early.
Yeah, not that late first
You're
round.
giving up some good value there. But yeah, I like him at the end of the third, beginning of the end of the first, beginning of the second. The Lions, every year they play from behind, catch up. I think he's going to see a lot of receptions out of the backfield. The caveat is he's going to stay healthy, to return the value in the first or second round where you take him. But, I mean, you could apply that to most of the running backs that you take first and second round too. So, I do like him there. I don't think it's a reach. I think, if you want to start off a hero, RB, I think it's a good start. It's a pass catching back. Henry's there. You're looking. You want a Henry who doesn't catch passes. Swift. I would take Swift before Henry in that case, especially in PPR leagues.
I would too, for sure, no question. If you draft Swift, are you also drafting Jamal Williams, or would you just rather have one or the other?
In that case, I just stick with Swift because where Jamal Williams going, there's some other RBs that I would rather add to my squad.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
We talked about the Bills receivers with Mckenzie and Crowder and Shakir. What about the running backs? And this question is dedicated to Jay Farrell Elliott, I should say, the guy who says I ask this question every week on this show, and he's right. I do, because I haven't figured it out myself. Who's your favorite Bills running back to have on your team this year when you consider draft capital? Is it James Cook? Is it Zach Moss? Or is it Devin Singletary?
Before I came on, Farrell came by. He says, "Are you on yet?" I said, "Well, get ready because Balky's going to ask you who's your favorite Bills running back." So
it's every week. It's every week.
I was kind of prepared for that question as a result, but it's James Cook by far. The Bills purposely drafted him for his skill set there. He's going to catch a lot of balls out of the backfield. He's looking good in camp. Preseason. So, he would definitely be my favorite. The only question I have with him is, to use his skill set, how many times are the Bills going to be behind in a game? Where they really can utilize that. It's the only question I have on Cook. But in injury away, if something happens to Singletary, certainly he could be a 3-down back. I know they still have Zach Moss there. So, where you're getting him, he's starting to move up as well, I see in drafts. But certainly he's by far my favorite Bill running back.
When it comes to the later rounds, is Zach Moss worth a draft pick in like the 18th, 19th round, or is it just somebody that you're done with? You're not drafting this year?
No, it's funny you brought that up. I'm taking Zach Moss shots at the end of drafts because in the FFPC, you get a free look.
That's true. Thursday Night Football. Absolutely.
Thursday Night Football. It kicks off. You could put him, and you could get him in the 20th round, 19th round easily. And he's a Buffalo Bill. You get a piece of the Buffalo Bill backfield.
Talking to a longtime high stakes champion, Jay Reed at Packers153 on Twitter. Let's talk about injury away running backs because Rachaad White's value spiked when Leonard Fournette's weight reportedly spiked earlier in the offseason at minicamp, and now Fournette's cut that weight. Rachaad White's still there. Is he among your favorite mid-round running backs to grab when you're looking for a guy who is going to have massive value if the guy in front of him gets hurt? Is Rachaad White one of those targets for you?
Yeah, absolutely. If you draft Fournette in the second round, or if you're lucky to get him in the third, you certainly have to reach for Rachaad White to back him up. The old saying is, well, you don't draft your running back backups, you draft, other players back up. But this is the case. I think it's an exception to the rule. You have Fournette on your squad. You definitely need to add Rachaad White. A great talent. I mean, you see some of the catches he's making in practice. He's had a great camp. Fournette goes down, I think he could be a league winner. Brady likes to throw his backs out of the backfield. So I guess if you've been looking at my draft, you've seen me. I have done that.
He's been in there a few times.
Yeah,
he's been there a few times for you. Yeah.
Yeah. I draft Fournette, and then I'd go and grab White.
Question from the YouTube chat right now. Trevor Holt, who's going to be drafting out here this weekend, a long time, very successful Kentucky player. He wants to know where we've seen Damian Pierce going today in drafts. And the one I think I just got done, I want to say he went like mid-7th, somewhere around there. And I feel like, Jay, as the weekend grows deeper here and we get into not only the auction we're doing later tonight, I know there's a Midnight Madness draft tonight as well, and then drafts all day Saturday and Sunday. What's the potential for Damian Pierce to move up to maybe the early 7th, maybe sneaking into the 6th, perhaps even the late 5th? Is that a possibility for Damian Pierce this weekend at the KFFSC, in your opinion?
I think by Vegas he might be in the 4th. You're talking about a guy that looks like he's won the backfield. In Washington, there's bad news coming out. I think Pierce is the guy.
Mm-hmm. And this is an ascendant talent, and he certainly could be hyped up to the 4th round by Planet Hollywood for the FFPC Live.
Not the Commanders in Houston, Damian Pierce.
Right. Yes. Exactly.
Yeah, he's won. I think he's won that role, and I think he's going to start moving up in drafts. And in February, we drafted here in the KFFSC in the big game. We got him in the 15th, 16th round back then, and now he moved up from what I see in the 6th round here. So
crazy value. That's why you draft early, for sure. Another question from a fan of the show, Kevin Williamson, in the YouTube chat right now. He wants to know, what's up with Albert Okwuegbunam in Denver? Are we a believer in Okwuegbunam? Are we a believer in Dulcich? Is it a situation to stay away from? How have you been treating Mr. Albert O for the Denver Broncos in drafts this year? Jay, have you been targeting him, or just grabbing him if he falls to you, or just ignoring him?
I have Albert O in a couple of leagues. I think drafters started to get worried a little bit because he played, through the whole game into the 4th quarter there in Denver, and he's fallen a little bit since then. I think he's a good ad. There's other tight ends in that area, such as Cole Kmet. I like him a little bit more, but I think Albert O with Russell Wilson, and I think he's going to have a good year. I mean, that was explained by the coach, him saying that they didn't have the tight end, so that he had to play the whole game. So you take it at face value. So if that's the case, he might move up, start moving up again.
What about the Commanders' backfield? I just got out of a draft where Antonio Gibson finally went in the late 9th round. Obviously, J.D. McKissic is going to soak up passing targets there. And then you have the rookie Brian Robinson, who might be the favorite for early down carries there. Well, how do you treat this Commanders backfield in your drafts, Jay? Who have you been picking out of that running back core?
That's a tough one. With the bad news, like I said earlier, there's bad news coming out for Gibson in Washington there. McKissic, we know who he is. He's your PPR back. You know what he's going to get you. But I think it's Brian Robinson's job. From what we're hearing, I think he's the guy to draft, and as a result, if you look at the draft boards, he's moving up as well. Used to get him in the 12th, 13th round. Now he's moving up into the 9th, sneaking into the 9th and 10th round. He may be another guy that's going to be moving up as we get close to Vegas as well.
We haven't talked tight ends a lot. I want to talk about Alley Cox in Indianapolis. Now, I know they drafted the rookie out of Virginia, and he's kind of let a lot of people down with his performance so far. But Alley Cox is there, and so is Matt Ryan. So Alley Cox, tight end premium format, like the Football Guys Players Championship, like the FFPC main event. Is Alley Cox, could he be a difference maker as far as depth goes for your tight ends?
I think he is. I think it's his job to lose right now. I mean, he is the bona fide tight end there, like you stated. Matt Ryan's there. I mean, he's made a Hall of Famer out of Tony Gonzalez. He loves throwing to the tight end. I think. Yep. I mean, I've picked him up in the 20th round and 19th round at times. So I think he's good to go. I think he's a great value where he's going now. He's actually almost the last tight end picked in most drafts if you look at the draft boards.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Why?
And we'll get his mojo here real quick. Alley Cox, tight end 34, going at the 18-10. He's going behind guys like Adam Troutman, Tyler Conklin, who's actually picking up a little bit of steam over the last week or so. Jonnu Smith, another guy who's rising up a little bit. And these are all super late tight ends. Cameron Brate, it's weird because, Jay, his value spiked, or his draft capital spiked when Rob Gronkowski retired. And now he's been slowly dropping down, and I'm not really sure why. Can you shed any insight into why people don't like Cameron Brate?
Yeah, I don't understand why. I mean, I picked him up once, I think, or twice in the draft. I just pure value alone, looking for maybe a third tight end or so. But I don't get it. I mean, in the games last year, Brady looked, for Brate, especially in the end zone, in the red zone area. So I don't understand why he's dropping like that. I really don't have an answer for that. But there's a lot of things.
You and me both. We don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
We both like him.
A lot of things, maybe because of the receivers that they have now and Julio Jones coming in, and maybe he's not going to go to him as much, but he's certainly a good value late in drafts as well.
Tony Holt popping in the YouTube chat right now. He wants to know your thoughts on cuffing Dalvin Cook with Alexander Madison. Now I'm going to tell you this right now. I didn't have the opportunity to do it, and I'm probably giving away some strategy here. For many, many years, Jay, I have always tried to handcuff my elite running backs if the handcuff had talent and was going to be the guy. Gone out of my way to do it sometimes. The last year or so, I have dropped that philosophy. Today, I didn't really have the opportunity, or the draft I just did, I didn't really have the opportunity to cuff because I took Aaron Jones as my top running back, and then I think Elijah Mitchell is my second. I am more, but I pegged Chris Evans late. I pegged Joshua Kelly, Kenneth Gainwell, like all these other potential handcuff guys. Those are the guys I went after, because when you're trying to win at $25,000 grand prize to the KFFSC main event, if you want to do that, I feel like you increase the variance when you go for other people's cuffs rather than your own. You may have a different philosophy when it comes to that with Dalvin Cook. When you draft Cook, are you also looking for Madison late because you've seen him do it before and you know the investment on getting him in drafts is fairly low?
Well, I brought that early up with Fournette and Rachaad White.
Yep.
That's an exception to the rule, basically, that you just stated. For me, with Cook, no, I'm not pursuing Alexander Madison. And it always tends that Cook drafter is looking to get Madison in a certain round, and he usually grabs him. Sometimes he's sniped and he's not. Mm-hmm. But that's one case where, now it's a different offense, a different coaching in Minnesota. Usually with Madison, it turned into a committee after Cook went in.
Yeah.
You had Boone there, you didn't know. So we don't know if that's going to happen this year.
And Tyson Chandler's been looking really good in preseason too.
Absolutely. So, when you look for a handcuff and you're trying to handcuff your own, you got to make sure that handcuff is going to get the playing time. Mm-hmm. He's going to be the main back. That's the exception to the rule as far as backing up your own, number one or number two running back that you pick in the earlier rounds.
So what the normal final question Farrell asks, I'm going to ask you right now. One player that you want to make sure you try to get on all your teams this year, and then another player, whether it be Kentucky, Vegas, online, whatever, that you don't want to have anything to do with this year. Opposite ends of the spectrum, Jay. Who are those two players for you?
Well, you might know the answer to that, but that's George Pickens. George Pickens for me. I think I have like 80% share of George Pickens. But remember, I was getting him in the 13th, 12th round earlier. Now he's moving up slowly because he's having a great preseason. And every time he caught passes and touchdowns, I'm like, oh, no, stop. Stop, don't do it, because I knew at that point he would. Now, is it hype? Could be hype, and that's maybe why he's moving up. But I like Pickens there in Pittsburgh. He's had a great preseason. We don't know exactly who the quarterback's going to be, but I think he's going to get his fair share of targets. And if anything, I think they're going to go long to him a number of times in a game. So you only need one hookup for maybe a 12 or 15 point, hookup fantasy points with Pickens. But that's the player that I've been targeting in that round. Well, now you got to target him in the 9th round.
Yeah, that's the thing, especially in Kentucky.
Yeah, you just did a draft. I don't know exactly where he went, but I'm sure he went in the 9th or 10th.
Yeah, it was somewhere around there.
Player that I don't have on any of my teams, I would say, would be Amari Cooper.
Okay.
And my personal opinion is no Deshaun Watson for 11 weeks. And, the quarterback's situation there, I just don't see it. From where he's going in drafts right now, I don't think it's a good value. That's just my opinion. He continues to go there. He seems to be pretty solid. But I've passed him just about in every draft I've done so far.
Our man Matthew Bingham wants to know, when you talk about Pickens, who do you want to win the quarterback job in Pittsburgh for Pickens' value? Is it Pickett? Is it Trubisky? Who are you rooting for there as a heavily invested Pickens owner?
I think Trubisky's going to start.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we'll see how he does. I like Kenny Pickett, strong arm. I think by the time the season ends, Pickett's going to take the helm. But my opinion, I think either one will do well. Now, Trubisky may run more, and take some possible targets away from his receivers. So if I had to stake my money on one of them, I think I'd go with Pickett.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
fair enough. So yes to Pickens, no to Cooper. Final question here for you, Jay, before we let you go enjoy your weekend in Kentucky. You kind of already touched on this. The player that you think high-stakes fantasy football players are falling all over themselves to draft, the guy who's going to ascend most, the guy who's going to be hyped up most when we're drafting live at Planet Hollywood in Las Vegas in a couple of weeks, who is that player going to be? You said before Damian Pierce could go as high as the 4th round. Is there another guy that perhaps could rival that sort of meteoric rise?
I think by the time we get to Vegas, it's going to be Damian Pierce and Brian Robinson. And let me tell you, let me tell you why. When you get to Vegas, you're going to get your fair share of 0 RB drafters. And they're going to be hitting those first 5, 6 receivers in a row. And then they're going to turn to get their running backs. And that's exactly where Damian Pierce and Brian Robinson are going to be. Now, the trick is you have to get there before they do. That's sort of defensive drafting. So if you can pick them up, build your team and turn and grab them before them, they'll probably be a little bit upset. But I think both of those players are definitely going to continue to rise, and I think they're targets of the 0 RB. And you always have at least 2, maybe 3 0 RB drafters. Vegas, soaking up all those wide receivers first. So those would be my 2 selections, definitely.
I'm not going to say what everybody refers to those guys as, but I'll just call them P-boys. And the P-boys will be in full force.
I was going to say it, but I think this is a G rated.
Yeah, YouTube frowns on that word, I think, so we're going to stay away from it. We will not stay away from you. This was great insight that you offered tonight, Jay. We will continue to follow you on Twitter at Packers153. I will see you the rest of this weekend here in Kentucky. Thank you so much for making do with the little late technical switch we had, which I appreciate. And good luck, man, this weekend. We're all rooting for you, and I'll see you in Vegas as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on, Balky. I enjoyed it.
Thank you, Jay. Appreciate it. Jay Reed, ladies and gentlemen, at Packers153 on Twitter, a former champion of the Football Guys Players Championship, the FFPC main event, the Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship main event, and many, many high-stakes satellite leagues as well. Let's bring in our second guest tonight, ladies and gentlemen. She's never been on the show before. She's making her debut. She's crushed many a league in the KFFSC before. You've seen her in the FFPC draft rooms as well. And I should know this, but I'm going to butcher it. I'm going to bring her on right now. First of all, it's the incomparable Stacey Perez, Esquire. Is it an Esquire? Can I say Esquire? Stacey Perez, Esquire?
You absolutely can. Hey, Balky. Thank you so much for having me.
You're very welcome. We're happy to have you. What's your Twitter handle again? Is it just at Stacey Perez?
No, it's actually at Stacey Danielle 10.
Stacey Danielle 10. Okay, there you
go.
Fantastic. And I know this because you are a fan of the show. We are a fan of you here at the HSFF Hour. You're constantly retweeting. You're constantly liking. We appreciate that for sure. Tell the listeners when you are not winning all these Kentucky leagues, Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship leagues, what you are doing for a living.
Well, so I am from Tampa Bay, or as we like to call it, Champa Bay down there.
Tampa Bay,
exactly. And I'm a family law attorney.
Family law attorney gives you the opportunity to mix and match your schedule so you can study high stakes fantasy football ADP and read up on all these players at your leisure. And it's probably part of the reason that you're able to win a lot of these leagues that you have been over the last few years.
Oh, it gives me the flexibility to be able to come do fun things like this over the week and go to Vegas. And so I'm so grateful that I have that opportunity to work for myself and do that and be able to participate in awesome stuff like this.
Yeah, and Tupac and I are very thankful for you giving us a ride from the airport in Louisville today to the casino.
You got it.
We're indebted for that. So let's talk about Chiefs running backs. As you know, Given that we are a fantasy football podcast and given it is August 2022, I make this joke a lot, but it's true. We are contractually obligated to talk about the Chiefs backfield, specifically Isaiah Pacheco. Is there a favorite that you have in the Chiefs backfield this year? Is it Pacheco? Is it Clyde Edwards-Helaire? Is it McKinnon? Is it somebody else? How have you been treating the Chiefs running backs, and how do you plan on treating the Chiefs running backs in your drafts this weekend at the KFFSC?
Well, I think you said it. I mean, there's so many names there. There's CEH, there's McKinnon, there's possibly Ronald Jones, and then we've got Pacheco coming in. Mm-hmm. So honestly, I don't really love that backfield, and the hype with Pacheco, I understand it, just from the preseason. But it just makes me a little hesitant to go with that just because, you've got so many other guys there, so many other established guys, and then you have a rookie, a later round draft pick, coming in. I just don't know that I'm buying the hype on him just yet.
And I think Darren Armani had this tweet yesterday. I think he tweeted out that we may have seen I was going to say plateau of Pacheco, but now he's slipped a little bit. So maybe it was a peak. 8th, 9th round, maybe a week or so ago, we saw him playing into the fourth quarter against the Packers last night. And this is a player, it's so weird because we made such a big deal out of this, and not we like you lumping you into this, but the high stakes fantasy football industry made such a big deal about Pacheco playing with the starters in preseason week 2, where he came in, near the goal line and got a carry inside the 5. We made such a big deal out of that. But now we have to kind of flip the script, knowing that if we're going to apply that rubric to why we like him, don't we have to apply the same rubric? Like, this guy was playing with third stringers in the fourth quarter last night in a meaningless preseason game. So I think, and that's exactly. And we saw, I think the draft I was just in, he went like late 10th, early 11th, something like that today. So I think that now Pacheco might become a buy for me this weekend if he continues to fall. But right now I'm still I'm finding other guys that I like.
Yeah. I think that's right. If he falls, then I'm more than willing to take a shot on him. But I think if he's going a little bit higher in draft, I just don't know that I'm there yet.
One of the guys that I contemplated, I went heavy wide receiver. I think I took 5 receivers in the first 6 picks tonight. So I was trying to build my running backs late. And one of the guys I considered was Tony Pollard. Now, I didn't take him, but I came close a couple of times because he slipped a little bit. Do you like the draft value for Tony Pollard better than you like the draft value for Ezekiel Elliott? Because I think Pollard is coming up right now, and Elliott's still going down a little bit. Who would you rather have when you consider draft value?
Honestly, I think I'd rather have Pollard. I mean, we got to see Pollard shine a little bit more last year. Even though Zeke played so many games, he was still injured and had all those issues. So, I don't really see that role for him, being reduced at all this year. So I think where Pollard's going, I really like him there, especially if you are trying to build up your receivers first and you're trying to go running back a little bit later. He's a great value there. And I know I've taken him in several drafts pretty late and been very happy with that decision.
All right, so Stacey, your Buccaneers fandom is being not questioned, but we're gonna bring this question in from Matthew Bingham here. Who's healthy right now for the Tampa Bay wide receivers, and how does the pecking order shake out if all 4 are healthy? And that's Gage, Jones, Evans, and Godwin. When all 4 are healthy, how does the target distribution go?
Well, I think, when all 4 are healthy, I think it was exactly what Matthew had put there, where you've got Evans, Godwin, Julio, and then Gage. The question is if they're all going to be healthy. And so, one big concern I've got is with Chris Godwin, coming back from that ACL tear late in the season. That's a big concern. Even though everybody's saying he's going to be ready for week 1, you just don't know until he gets out there. And, that's a pretty recent injury still. So that would be a big concern with him. But I think that's kind of where that pecking order goes once everybody gets healthy. And hopefully we'll see that in Tampa down there, and that'll be a great offense to watch, even if Tom Brady gets back from doing the Masked Singer or whatever he's doing down there.
So the Masked Singer thing, there's some hype to this, and this is one of those things where I'm like, Brady and everybody's poo-pooing that right now, but then when all of a sudden he's revealed as like the purple alligator with the diamond encrusted necklace or whatever he's going to be on the show, then everybody like that Reddit guy who found out about guy or woman who discovered this, they're going to be lauded as a champion of Tom Brady insight. The Buccaneers in general, they lost some guys in free agency. They lost some guys to injury. Brady hasn't practiced a whole lot in the preseason and in training camp. Are you necessarily down on this offense because of any or all those reasons?
Well, I think you can count on 3 things. Death, taxes, and Tom Brady is going to be ready when the season comes around. whether or not he's out, doing the dancing shows or doing whatever else, is got going on out there. I have no concern with Tom Brady. He's Tom Brady. So he's going to be ready to go day one. And I would have no concern drafting him right now at all. And if that gives other people pause, then even the better. Then I'll take him a little bit later too. But we did lose a lot of injuries. Not lose a lot of injuries. Sorry, we lost a lot of people, especially Ryan Jensen. The center. Yeah. That was a big loss. So that's definitely something to be aware of. But I don't know that I would downgrade the offense even with that. I think it's just too good of an offense, and I think they're going to overcome those injuries.
I will say tonight, one of the big running back sliders early on in that first main event draft I did was Leonard Fournette. That was a guy that could continue to slide before he was finally picked up. Let's shift. Let's go north to New York. Is Elijah Moore? Elijah Mitchell's in San Francisco. That's west. Elijah Moore, is he the only Jets receiver you're looking at this year? Garrett Wilson fell quite a bit in the draft I just did. And Corey Davis has sort of been like a fringe, like 17, 18, 19 round guy. Is that the way that you would have it? Do you like Davis or Garrett Wilson more so than high stakes fantasy footballers are doing right now?
Not really. I just don't know that I'm a big believer in that offense just yet. I do like, I like Moore. I like him a lot. He is the only Jets player that I am taking right now in a redraft league. I like Garrett Wilson a lot. I like his talent, and I think more suited for a dynasty league, in my opinion, right now, is where I would feel more comfortable taking him.
And so, okay, I guess I want to transition here and talk about some injuries. Drake London, let's start with him. I think it was preseason week 2, or maybe it was week 1. I can't remember. I'm getting it mixed up now.
Yeah.
He goes down with that injury, right? And now it seems that Atlanta is playing very cautious with him right now, not willing to risk him because they need him so much in the regular season. Is that what is going on there in your opinion? Or is this injury a little bit more serious than a lot of people are letting on? And maybe you're going to let Drake London slide out of the 7th round and you won't look at him there at his current ADP.
Yeah, I think it's a knee injury, something like that.
Yeah,
if I remember right, the knee injury. Yeah, so I mean, any kind of injuries like that just make me real nervous taking somebody, especially not knowing exactly the extent of that. So I don't know that I would take him where he's going right now. I might look at other rookies if that's kind of what I'm trying to do, with my build. But I think they're right to be concerned, right to be cautious. I mean, he is a rookie. He has missed a lot of time because of that injury. Don't have time just to gel with that offense and kind of get, in the groove of things for the season to start. So if it were me, I think I might pass on him now, at least unless we, get some more information out over the weekend, find out a little bit more about what's going on with his knee.
Yeah, and I mean, you said it too. It's not like the Atlanta Falcons are this awesome passing offense, right? And he is still a rookie. I mean, there is a little bit of a learning curve. He is missing valuable reps in training camp right now because of the injury. So, and when you look at, and I'll bring up the mojo right now here, Stacey, and maybe we can play a quick would you rather with Drake London. But you look at the 7-12, it's like the 7-8 turn is where he's going right now. Would you rather have, okay, let's do this. Would you rather have Amari Cooper or Drake London?
Oh, gosh.
You don't like either one?
I don't.
Okay.
Do I have a third option?
All right. How about this? How about Drake London or DeAndre Hopkins?
Oh, I'd rather have Hopkins for sure. At that point, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, at that point, you've got other receivers, with Hopkins being out those first 6 games, you're not relying on him to start the season.
Right.
But you'll have a great receiver coming in, towards that middle of the season. So I would definitely rather have Hopkins.
Drake London or Devontae Smith from Philadelphia?
Oh, Devontae Smith, definitely.
All right, this is gonna be fun. Drake London, and we're gonna go right down the list. Drake London or Kadarius Toney?
Ooh. Oh, I mean, Kadarius Toney's got a lot of injury issues too.
Yeah.
Even though he does hail from my home state, I can't be a homer and take him there. So, honestly, I think I'd probably go London at that point.
All right, last one, and this is a guy I drafted, and I actually like him quite a bit, even with Michael Thomas seemingly relatively healthy right now. Drake London or Chris Olave, who would you rather take?
Oh, I'm a big Chris Olave fan, so
Yeah.
I like that Saints offense. I like what they're going to do. Even with Thomas there, Thomas I think has a hamstring issue right now that they're trying to get sorted out. So. Yeah, I would definitely go Olave. Yeah,
me too as well. All right, so another guy, and this is what people tuned in for tonight. FFPC, Football Guys Players Championship, tight end premium league. We have to talk about tight ends. Darren Waller. What are we doing with him right now with this hamstring injury that doesn't seem to go away? Josh McDaniels was asked about this, I think, 2 days ago on Wednesday, and he didn't want to put a timetable on it. I mean, this is like the most crimson of red flags that we can get right now. I was thinking about drafting him tonight, and I'm like, I can't do that because if I draft Darren Waller, okay, if I'm drafting Darren Waller in the FFPC, I'm still backing him up with at least one other tight end, probably two. KFFSC, if I sink that kind of draft capital into a tight end that early, I'm probably not drafting a backup. And you might have to because we don't know if Waller's healthy in week 1. What are you doing with Waller this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're absolutely right. If you draft Waller, I still consider Waller, with his talent, he is one of the top tight ends, top tight ends there. So if I am looking to take a top tight end, he's probably on the lower tier of what I'm looking at. And, with that issue, with the hamstring, we don't know when he's coming back. We don't know the extent of it, just the same, as Drake London there. I just, to spend that kind of draft capital, like you just said, I think it's just too much for me. I think I would have rather prefer, a tight end with a little bit more, consistency there, a little bit more, I know for sure that he's going to be, healthy and he's going to play. And then also, that you don't have to worry about Hunter Renfrow. You don't have to worry about Davante Adams. My beloved Davante Adams. You just love that guy. But I think Waller's real talented. I just don't know that I'm spending the draft capital to get him this year.
And I think this gets into a wider discussion, a philosophical discussion on how we handle drafting injured players at the Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship, because this was always the weekend everybody worried about. It used to be preseason week. Well, it still is preseason week 3, but it used to be the dress rehearsal weekend and we were always glued, like, okay, who's making a play, who's getting hurt, and everything like that. Now we don't necessarily have to worry about that because this is basically the throwaway game where all the young guys, the guys trying to make the 53-man, get the most run. And then you get the bye week next week. So I think it changes a little bit. And that's good, but it's also bad because we get less information on these injured guys right now. And I don't know if you feel the same way, but I tend to be a little bit more cautious, at least early on in the draft with players that are hurt right now, because if they're hurt right now, I'm not going to find out if they're going to be healthy before the start of the season. And that gives me a lot of worry.
It does. And the same, and I don't know if you remember this time last year, but this is when that kind of the Baltimore, apocalypse happened with all the running backs. Everybody went down. So, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, you're drafting this weekend and without having more information about guys, it's just, why risk it at that point when you could take somebody who's healthy?
It's so weird. Like, Kentucky has been the home of so many weird happenings. With this, you think about when Jordy Nelson tore his ACL. And Ty Montgomery went from not being drafted in the Saturday morning drafts to being like an 8th round pick Saturday night, which was crazy. The weirdest one was probably whatever it was several years ago now, and Kevin Williamson, who's in the YouTube chat right now, I was getting a drink at the bar and he said, hey, he comes up to me during a break in my draft. He comes up to me and he says, did you hear about Andrew Luck? I said, no, what happened? Oh, you retired. I'm like, he did not retire. And I'll remember there's these in the ballroom, which we're in right now. There's these 2 tiny TVs in either corner. And I just remember there was probably about 20 to 25 people around each TV watching this Andrew Luck retirement press conference. He was being drafted in like the 6th, 7th round earlier in the day. And now he's retired. And
it was wild.
It's so bizarre, the stuff that happens on this weekend.
I was in the middle of a draft when we got the news that Andrew Luck retired, and the guy next to me, I think I was in the 11th spot, he was in the 12th spot. He had taken Andrew Luck a couple of rounds before that. Yeah. And I get that my phone goes off, I get the little alert, I look over, I see Andrew Luck retired, and I just looked at him and was like, oh my gosh.
And then I remember people who did that, and then like the 20th round, 19th round, I think it was Jacoby Brissett, right? That they were drafting as the replacement, which is so weird that we're seeing teams draft 2 quarterbacks in the same team in a 20-round main event. It was crazy, and that's what makes Kentucky so much fun. All right, let's get onto this. This is the Farrell question I'm asking. I asked Jay Reader this earlier. One player that you're trying to get on all your teams this year because you love where he's going, you love his talent, and you love his potential fantasy production. And then the opposite of that guy, a guy that you don't want to have anything to do with, a guy who will not be in any of your rosters this year, Stacey.
So we'll start off with the first one that I want everywhere is Damian Pierce. And I just love where he's going. I love the opportunity he's got. You know, he's being treated as a starter. I think that's pretty much the consensus that he is going to start in Houston. You know, look, you may not want to watch a Houston game. It may not be pretty, but I think you're going to like the points that he puts up at the end of the day. You know, he's only got Rex Burkhead and Marlon Mack to contend with. I mean, if you can get a starting running back in the round that he's going in, I don't know why you wouldn't take him. So he's definitely my guy. Now, the one that I really don't have any shares of at all yet, and I probably won't, and this might be a little bit of a hot take, and I may regret this later.
Oh, we love hot takes on this show. We love it. We love it.
Is Javonte Williams. I like Javonte Williams. I think he's a great running back, but I just can't take him in the second round with where he and Melvin Gordon were doing a timeshare last year, you know, almost equal, if not right at equal, I think. And you know, Melvin Gordon's back this year, so I know we have a new coach there. You know, maybe things will change. Maybe they'll use him a little bit differently, but I just don't think that I can take Javonte Williams in the second round, knowing that I could get Melvin Gordon a lot later for a lot cheaper, who potentially could have the exact same impact.
And if Williams gets hurt, Gordon will not be a stiff. You know, he's going to put up numbers in that offense for sure. All right. So sometimes we have seen the trends for Vegas being set at the center of the fantasy football universe here this weekend, which is right outside Louisville, Kentucky, here in Elizabeth, Indiana. What player do you think, as the weekend grows on, we get deeper into the weekend here, what player do you think everybody's going to be, you know, we always see this too, where, oh, this guy, he took this guy in the 6th round, so now I got to take him in the 5th round the next draft. And then that guy's like, I got to take him in the 4th round. Is there a player in Kentucky this weekend that's going to happen to? Who is going to be the biggest hype guy this weekend?
So I think this weekend, and I've been seeing it all throughout my drafts, you know, just leading up to this weekend, is Allen Lazard. You know, I mean, with Devontae Adams leaving, you know, there's that hole there. You know, they've got to fill it somehow. And I just really think that, given that he's been there the last few years, he's got Rodgers' trust, which is huge in Green Bay. I mean, if Aaron Rodgers trusts you, you're going to get the ball. And I really think that, you know, I think was Lazard going around in the 6th round, I think, right now. I could absolutely see, you know, people trying to take him as early as possible to get, you know, a number 1 wide receiver potentially in that late of a round is a huge steal. So I know they've got some rookie guys there, and I'm a big fan of Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson, but, you know, we all know Rodgers' history with rookies. And I think if he's got a guy he can trust in Lazard, I think that's who he's going to go to.
I'll tell you this. Aaron Rodgers came out, I think, earlier this week, and he said there is going to be a standard that Romeo Doubs is being held to this year that previous rookie receivers have not been held to. Think about Jordy Nelson. Think about James Jones, Greg Jennings, you know, all these guys that, you know, over the years. Devontae Adams is another one. To me, that standard exists because there is not a Jordy Nelson or a Devontae Adams, really anybody that in their prime. And Lazard is a good pick, and he's been rising, obviously. I can't remember if I brought this up in the show, but like 2 weeks ago, Football Guys draft, he went that I was commissioning. He went in the second round for Allen Lazard.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
oh my gosh, that's the highest
really
I've seen.
that is really aggressive. And I don't think I don't think most cheeseheads could pull that off in their draft.
No.
But it happened. But I will say that from what I have read and heard, it sounds like Rodgers wants the 3 receivers and 3 receiver sets to be Lazard, Cobb, and Sammy Watkins, and not Dobbs yet. I saw the report today that Marquez Valdes-Scantling sort of fell out of favor with Rodgers because of some mental errors where he was running the wrong routes, and that's why Rodgers is putting such an emphasis on both Dobbs and Watson being in the right place at the right time. I don't want to turn this into a Packers thing, but Rodgers has said athletically, physically, he knows these guys are going to make plays. It's the mental things, running the route the right way, being in the right spot at the right time. That's what's important to him. That's what this offense is predicated on. Watson is not going to do that this year. He's just too raw, and he's missed some time in training camp. Dobbs maybe at the end of the season, but I think you cannot underestimate the learning curve. And if you're going to underestimate the learning curve, you're not going to get Lazard, and other people are going to benefit, like you, Stacey, who are taking Lazard at the right spot And it's not the sexiest pick in the world, but it's going to get the job
Right.
done.
Exactly.
You have been a delight on this show tonight.
Oh,
We certainly appreciate it.
you.
Thank you so much. We'll follow you, Stacy Danielle 10 on Twitter.
Yes, please.
I don't know. I think Kevin Williamson said, I hope you're not in any of my drafts this weekend. Same thing with me. I don't want you in any of my drafts because it's going to lower my odds for success rate this weekend. But if you are, we will have some fun and it's going to be a great time.
We'll have a blast. Absolutely.
And it was a blast having you on the show tonight. Thank you so much for being a part of the program. Yeah. And I will hang out with you later this weekend.
Absolutely. Balky, thanks again so much. This was awesome. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Stacy.
Thank you.
You bet. Stacy Perez, ladies and gentlemen, at Stacy Danielle 10 on Twitter. And that will complete tonight's show. It's going to be, I feel like the Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship show is always a little bit abbreviated every single year because immediately after the show, I have to strike down and get ready for the auction that goes on at 8:30 here Eastern time, which is going to be the case tonight. So with that, one of the things we have done historically on this program, two things. Number one is the Ascendant. We always revealed the Ascendant. We kind of got away from that because Ascendants, it really wasn't the right term for it anymore. So we switched it, I think about 2 or 3 years ago, to the Hype Guy. And I think I asked both Jay and Stacy who their hype guys are, and not so many words tonight. And we've heard several answers to the question. We've heard Brian Robinson. We've heard George Pickens. We've heard Damian Pierce. We've heard the one that Stacy just said that's escaping me right now. Alan Lazard is a guy that could be rising up in drafts. For me, and I'll answer this in sort of Vegas terms, the FFPC, Planet Hollywood, I don't think we can accurately gauge how high-stakes owners are going to treat Gabriel Davis in drafts. This is a player we have already heard. His run blocking is sublime. He might be on the field for more snaps than Stephon Diggs. And I know we don't want to overrate what he did in the postseason last year, but he did catch 4 touchdowns in the AFC AFC divisional playoff against the Chiefs. He caught 4 touchdowns, like in 200 yards. He did do that. I mean, you could poo-poo it if you want, but that just did happen. And for a guy like him, who has been slowly closing the gap between the ADP of him and Stephon Diggs, I think it's fair to wonder what Gabe Davis is capable of and what high-stakes owners are going to be capable of when they're drafting live at Planet Hollywood. My hype guy this year is not somebody that was mentioned on the program tonight, but I think for me it's Gabriel Davis, and I think we could see some crazy stuff when we get to Vegas, as we always do every time. And if you want to draft live in Vegas, I'll bring it up right now, ladies and gentlemen. I think that we are running very, very low on live spots out at Planet Hollywood. If you've already booked your room and you're looking for more action, we have 3 draft times still open out there on both Thursday, Friday, or on all 3 of Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. You can draft live out in Las Vegas, but you can also draft from the comfort of your own home each and every day until the start of the NFL season. A $1 million grand prize at stake in the FFPC main event, a season-long fantasy football industry record. You can draft for that right now, and we'll have at least 3 draft times every day. On the weekends, we'll have more than 3 draft times as well. So make sure you're taking advantage of that. The Football Guys Players Championship going off, $500,000 grand prize. At least a dozen, 15, 20. We'll probably get some, the draft-a-thon coming up next week, and we'll probably have some days where we get 40, 50 drafts out on one day. So you won't have to wait long for that. Take your shot at a $500,000 grand prize. Remember, if you've already signed up for 2 Football Guys drafts, you will get a $50 discount on the 3rd one as well. The best ball tournament still going strong. $125 can win you $200,000 in the FFPC best ball tournament. A $35 entry fee can win you a $10,000 grand prize in the Superflex best ball tournament too. Dynasty startup still going on, although starting tomorrow, it's just going to be 60-second clocks. You can still participate in fantasy football year round if you want to join in those. And if you like the closed 12-team leagues as well, don't forget that we have plenty of action there in the varsity format, the Terminator format, Classic, best ball, whatever you'd like. There's a league for you at the FFPC. And remember, while you may not have made it to Louisville, or maybe you did make it to Louisville and you're watching this getting ready to hang out with me tomorrow and Sunday, There are plenty of online main events as well going on at KFFSC.com. Take your shot at a $25,000 grand prize in the 20th annual KFFSC. It's so much fun. And that will complete our program tonight. A couple of shout outs and a couple of programming notes I want to make everybody aware of before we sign off tonight. Number one, this will be our last show until the start of the NFL season. We are off next Friday because we are busy covering the Labor Day Draft-a-thon with the Football Guys Players Championship. The charity will be announced on that shortly in the FFPC mailer, so make sure you're looking up for that. We're donating the money to this year. No show the following week because we're busy with the live events out at Planet Hollywood in Las Vegas. So we won't have a live show then. The following week, the Friday after week 1, we will be back at our normal time at 10/9 Central. Farrell Elliott joining me on the program, and another high stakes fantasy magnet will be will be joining the show tonight, or the Friday the 16th, which will be our next live show on this channel. We might have another live main event draft coverage. I don't know if I'll be doing it. It might be our boy Aiden, who's doing fantastic work with the FFPC right now, our man Aiden, and then Dave Terpoli as well. Nothing in the works right now that's cemented, but we might have one of those coming up as well. So make sure you're hitting that notification bell so you know when we're coming up live again. Remember to like, subscribe, and share. We certainly appreciate that. And with that, that is a wrap on the preseason episodes of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. We'll be back on September 16th. I'm going to get ready for this auction. Good luck in all your drafts this year. Hopefully you bring home a lot of change, a lot of ching, a lot of cash, a lot of Casbah, a lot of cheese this year. And hopefully the guests we brought on the show will help you do that. Thank you so much, everybody. Your weekend officially starts now.
This has been another episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com. It was broadcast live and was watched around the world. Balky and Farrell will be back next week with more analysis, more interviews, and more advice from guests much smarter than they are. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk with you again next week.
By the way, I should thank some other people. I want to thank Jay Reed. I want to thank Stacey Perez for coming on. Farrell Elliott, of course, who brings you the KFFSC every year, the co-host of the show. I want to thank the KFFSC, the FFPC, Rob Bryson, of course, each and every one of you. And a special shout out to Chad Schroeder, who graciously was drafting next to me tonight in my main event, who graciously offered to pick my kicker defense for me so I could start this show on time. Thank you, Chad. I am forever indebted. That is going to do it, ladies and gentlemen. Good luck in all your drafts. Really appreciate you watching, and we'll talk with you again on September 16th.